So hello, Sarah and Damien. How are you today?
Hello.
Hi, we're fine. Very good.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Thank
wonderful
you.
to have you here. So I'd love to start out with a little bit of introduction from the both of you. If you can tell me a little bit more about who you are, a little bit about your project, and then you as well, Damien. And we can start off a little bit with that, just so the audience understands why you're here, and just learn a little bit more about you.
Perfect. So we're musicians from the south of France, and we have a duo called Querida. And like 6 years ago, we encountered the music of plants with the device that's coming from Damanur, which is a community in northern Italy.
Okay.
And since then, it was just like it was so powerful to hear music coming from plants that we were just like, we're going to dedicate a lot of our time and energy to this project. So it's Carried Down the Music of Plant project.
Amazing, amazing, beautiful. I'm excited. And you had recently the concert as well, I understand.
So we've been like, we were supposed to perform yesterday, but we're going to perform on Wednesday. And we're also going to do a workshop in Gardenia here, where we're going to really develop all the research we're doing around the music of plants, because we're not just playing with plants, like with our instruments, live playing with the music of plants, but we're actually part of a research team in France, and it's a scientific team that learning a lot about this music and how actually the melodies are very specific melodies.
Beautiful, amazing. Damien, you want to share a little bit more?
Yeah, it's about this scientific team. There's a physician, mathematician, farmers, and so they're doing a lot on the terrain.
Yeah, they do a lot of experiences like protocols in the earth, like on live, like direct experiences.
Beautiful. That is incredible. That is incredible. So what does, and I'd like for you to both answer this question, and to each one of you, what does regeneration mean to you specifically? What does, when you hear the word regeneration, what comes to mind? How do you embrace it? How does it inspire you?
Regeneration is like is a way of life, I think, for me, and it's how you te nourris, how you feed yourself. And I think when I play music, I regenerate myself.
I can resonate with that.
Yeah.
I think it's also like to do with the respect of oneself, so that then you can also respect all that is around you and interact with a certain respect. So I really felt that with plants, like it's like because it's a live performance, and plants sometimes cannot make music, and it really depends on what's happening in the environment. And they're very sensitive. Plants are incredibly sensitive to their environment. So it's really about like being centered and good in ourselves to be able to connect, and then the plant will connect or not. Like if it feels at ease and it's the right moment and the plant is happy about it, it's got so much to tell us. It's incredible.
That is, I feel, extremely connected to regeneration. And I mean, music in itself is a way to regenerate ourselves.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely complete alignment. So thank you, such an honor. And so, what do you feel? How do you think that this word regeneration is affecting the way that we behave, that we show up in the world today? How is that affecting our culture nowadays? Have you seen any changes, and what are you experiencing, maybe in your work and the places that your concerts are at, and the people that you're engaging with? What are your experiences in that regard?
So, like when we play with the plants, or when people hear the music of plants, it completely changes their vision of the plant world. Like we've had so many people coming after concerts saying, I'll never see plants the same again, you know? Or, oh, I'm going to go and talk to my plants now, you know? It's like obvious for them. Mm-hmm. And so it makes another relationship with nature, like another relationship to all these plants that are living beside us, and they're interacting with us permanently, like all the time. So it opens up to that world, you know? And I think plants, that's what really plants are looking for, is to interact with us as well. We kind of forgot how to interact with them.
I agree, 100%, and I think that's the key here. Really, we're trying with regeneration. We're trying to actually bring back that interaction, that human connection amongst ourselves, amongst human, and also to nature.
Exactly.
And how about yourself, Damien? Can you share a little bit about how you express what that expression is and how you feel that that's maybe this regeneration wave, how is it affecting your work and then the people that you're engaging with and the places that you're potentially now going to play in concerts?
I think because I plant, or because also we like to the best plant we play is the fern, and because they are here for 450 million of years on Earth, they know how to regen themselves, and because we play with Earth a lot, and they always respond to a question we ask to us.
Amazing.
They're always going
Beautiful.
to put you on a way, and another way, and another way. They will ask to every question we
They will answer
to every question.
So it's like a guidance that you are receiving also through the plants in your work, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, and through
the interval of music. Of
yeah,
the
that's what we
notes.
study really in with the scientific team. Like we're doing many trials, like experiencing things, and definitely plants are giving very specific messages through this music of plants.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
Can you
it's
maybe
like-
share a little bit more about going to a little bit deeper into that, maybe some examples?
Yeah, so like we're picking up on the electric activity of a plant, and it's transcoded into notes, and so we have like sequences of notes that will like stimulate or non-stimulate certain molecules in the environment, and so we can see amazing results in agriculture.
That's
Because
Beautiful.
so plants are really in tune with other plants. We know that, like they're interacting, and so through this music, they're actually like giving exactly the melodies that a certain crop would need or another plant would need. It's just we've done so many protocols. It's been more than 10 years that so the people that we're working with, the scientific team, is led by Jean Toby. And he's discovered so much, like putting the music of plant in an environment, an agricultural environment.
Oh, no, it's good.
The plants will be like stronger, and they will have they have easier way of how can I say this? Like they'll get through if there's ever too much drought. They can survive longer, and they can do more production of fruit and flowers. These kind of examples have been proved with all these protocols, which were just, and a lot of testimonies, because agricultural farmers have been working with it, and they're
After 4 years of working with this way of this technology, they have
Incredible.
really good results, and so other farmers, they say, "Oh, it's working, so I will do it."
I want to try, and
Beautiful.
it's really in France. It's really big
Doing well.
spreading, so it's fantastic.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And it's also, we've noticed in our research that it helps also the human beings and animals. So we found this music therapy, botanic music therapy, we call it.
Okay.
And it's the same as with plants. The plant that we're listening to, and we specifically work with ferns, it's giving exactly the melodies that the animals would need in a certain space, or the humans.
Amazing,
It's,
amazing. So it's, essentially this is the connection. You can see that you can actually experience the frequency connections right there throughout the music going and extending out. So that's, I would say that's the essence of regeneration, and the fact that you're working with the plant that you mentioned that's, the age of over 400,000 years, you're going also back to the essence, which is very much one of the main things in regenerations is going back to the essence of a place or, of a community itself. So wonderful, wonderful. And what kind of trends are you seeing in your work? Like, what's your vision for the future with the work that you're doing in this regeneration space specifically, more than anything? Aside from what you just mentioned with the work that you're doing with the research and all that, where do you see this going in the future? Maybe what's your vision? What do you visualize out of it as well?
I think it's good to remind people that there's this device. It's really interesting. Like we're learning a lot about it, but people can feel a little bit put aside because not everybody has a device, right? And I really want to remind people that actually this device is just a tool to come back to a connection that we already have inside us, you know? So it's like just reminding us that everything is interconnected. The plants really want to interact with us, so let's go towards them. And let's create a collaboration
with them.
Collaboration with the plants. That's incredible. I mean, it's, all of the basic elements of regeneration. I mean, collaboration, co-creation. Really.
That's it.
I mean, and here you're co-creating with the plants when you're coming together with them and in your concerts.
with the
and
music. Yeah, absolutely.
So, beautiful, beautiful. And what specific needs do you have, like in this space? We'd like to know what your needs are as well.
Well, you mean needs in...
Just in general, as far as maybe the work that you're doing, you know, what are your needs specifically? What would you...
Well, I think, how can I say? I don't know if I understand exactly the question, but the need would be to so that more people...
Spread the word.
Spread this consciousness, right? This, like plants have a consciousness, and let's spread it so that... we're just more careful, we have more respect for plants, and that we can really go a long way. They have so much to teach us, so let's tune in with them, right? But yeah, I'd say that. What would you say?
I need to take care about them, and they will take care about us. And I think it's like to sing for plants in the forest, they will give back to you.
Give back. You are reciprocating.
Yes.
Again, another one of the essential elements within regeneration is that reciprocity. So that's beautiful that you're saying that as well. Wonderful, wonderful. And I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned the machine, so I was sparked a little bit of curiosity on me because is this when you started in this work? How long ago again did you start in the work?
6-7 years.
6-7 years ago, and maybe a little bit about how you engaged with it, and then about the machine, and because you said other people don't have access to it, so maybe they don't have the ability to relate as well. How would that be made possible for maybe somebody that doesn't have access to attending one of your concerts, and so being able to expand a little bit more and spread the word more? Is there anything that we can do, or that the world can know that can be done to be able to do this?
I think so. This device was created like 20 years ago.
25.
Yeah, and there's other devices, like we're just we're working with only one that's from northern Italy, right? But I think, there's a lot of possibilities, I think it's very broad, like, I don't know how to...
How many devices? You cannot find the device, very as easily.
So it is absolutely available, but it's not like it's. You can find it on the internet and receive it, but how can I say? The people that designed the device, their idea was really just to give a tool so that people. Come back to their inner connection with nature, and not rely on an external tool, right? So
it's a tool. It's an instrument to remind you, if you will, of the essence of human nature and of essentially the connectedness that we all have. So it's an instrument, but then once you experience that, then you're meant to, like the person that goes to your concert and says, now I'm talking to my plant. So that's a vivid example of they experience that connection through your work, through your music, through your concerts, and then they went back home and it completely shifted. That I feel that in itself, you are regenerating already the people that are attending your concerts, because you're amazing having a shift in mindset, and they're returning to their homes with a different relationship with the plant. So that's that's the very basis of regeneration. So wonderful, wonderful. And what trends are you seeing as it relates to this, as far as this work that you're doing? Where is it trending? Are there other people in the work also that you're maybe collaborating with, and what do you see looking into the future specifically as it relates to the work that you're doing in the music with the plants and the concerts, trending into the future? what is the vision? What are
Les hôpitaux, l'agriculture.
I think the two big visions is there's a field in agriculture and a field in healing. So in France, it's already been accepted in 2 hospitals to use this device and to do 30% of the healing.
In the hospital.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's needed, and in agriculture, it's really like a revolution because it means that it's coming out of the system. We're in a system where people use pesticides. They don't respect the water. It's like it's very unbalanced. And actually, this is really bringing a whole other vision of how to work. And I think that's really the vision of the future, right? Is to change the way of cultivating.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. And that, how about, do you have anything to add to that?
I just want to say, like, just thinking about this music we're going to play, it's like when I feel, every time I play with a fern or with every plant, there's like a so deep connection. Each time is different, and so it's like I'm just like surprised each time, and I know what I say. I know what. Je sais pourquoi. I know why I play with them.
Mm-hmm. You understand the connection.
Each time I say, yeah, sure.
And how I'm curious as to last thoughts that you have. Anything else that you would like to add? We have a couple more minutes. Some final words that you'd like to relay to the public watching us.
Oh, there's so much to say, you know. Like there's
We can continue on for a while, but we'd love to have your words of what you'd like to say to the audience as to leave us with some of your beautiful words.
What would be wonderful is that the audience comes to a workshop, because then they can really experience it. You know, we can talk a lot about it, but actually, when you experience it, it's a whole other thing. Like you come down into living an experience, like a live experience, and not just talking about it. It's so different.
Of course, I can't wait to experience it myself. I'm passion. Music is my channel. I always say music is my therapy, and I have been following, but I haven't actually had the experience, so I'm excited to it. And when is going to be the workshop here for Regen Week? Do we have
It's on Monday at 5 p.m. in Gardenia.
Okay, perfect. So it's going to be right here. Wonderful. I'm excited about that. That'll be a wonderful experience. Beautiful. So thank you so much for all of your shares and for being here. We're super humbled and grateful to have you, and excited for all of us here to learn more, experience the work that you're doing. I personally think it's absolutely essential, and it's so beautiful that you found that channel and that you're able to connect to that channel. It just takes things to a whole other level. Really.
As I was going to say, like, music is like a universal language. So in a way, everybody can understand what it's about, you know?
Exactly.
Without our words, but just by they feel it.
Exactly.
And that's precious.
That's the key.
That's the key.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Wonderful to
Thank
have
you.
you and meet you as well.
Thank you so much for the welcome.
Thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure to meet you both and learn a little bit more. Hello, Anjanette.
Hello.
Welcome to Regen Week.
Thanks for having me.
So I'd like you to introduce yourself, and so first and last name, and tell us a little bit about your work so that the public can learn a little bit more about who you are.
Okay. Well, I'm Anjanette Green, and I'm with my own consulting practice called A Greener Space. I'm a certifications expert, and that's for both buildings and for product certifications, and I'm an interior architect by trade. But I don't always feel comfortable with that as being the definition of what I do, because I'd like to think that what I do, especially now, is a lot more deep and complex. Hopefully we'll talk about that.
Well, wonderful. Wonderful. So, and as far as the word regeneration, so we're here because of Regen Week, and we're really catalyzing global regeneration here. So what does regeneration mean to you?
I knew that this was a question that was going to be asked prior to the interview, and I was trying to think of a way to answer this that wasn't trite or sort of belittling to the definition, because I certainly don't think that I have a true definition for what it is. I'm still learning, and I think most people who are in the field would say the same. It's an ongoing process. But for me, it sort of goes back to the adage that you learn as a kid. It's basically leaving something better than how you found it. Mm-hmm. And, I started off by saying I wasn't going to say something trite, and that sounds really trite. Mm-hmm. But I think the more I experience in the field of, design and the responsibility that I have, the more I am brought down to a very humble level. And understanding that the more that you are going to insert yourself into a system, or the more you are going to impose your ideas into a space, you run the risk of ruining a system that was fine before you came. And I think that starts to turn really dark for a lot of architects and designers in particular, when you're told that the system or the place would be better if you hadn't had designed something in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's not what we want to hear. So for me, I think that it's understanding your place, being clear about what it is that you can do, recognizing and being humble about what you can do, and imagining, can this system thrive and be better once I step away and once I'm gone? If I can answer those questions, then to me, I think that that is a part of what I would consider regenerative design.
And I actually consider that what you just said, and towards the end, will the system be better once I step away and once I'm gone? That really is the point of when you're going into a regenerative development project. You're there for a certain period of time as part of the design team, but you want to be able to catalyze life for that system to continue, within itself, in a feedback loop of life to a cell that no longer needs you. So you are definitely, in my personal opinion, thinking in the right direction. And so how are you currently expressing regeneration in your work? I know that you're here doing some incredible projects, focused on local craftsmanship and local materials. And that's very essential to regeneration as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. As I said, I'm a materials and building certification expert, and that is a very desk-oriented type of job. I work on a lot of spreadsheets, and I audit, and I do all the things that sound really boring and not in the field at all. And so I think that for me, I decided with A Greener Space in 2024 to go in the field and really sort of be more energized by living and breathing the actual design experience. And I have a special love and affinity and enthusiasm for bio-based materials, and always have. And I think that there's such a huge potential, not only for us to understand those materials and where they can fit into the greater design context, but it is an opportunity for us as practitioners and experts in all of our fields to actually open a door of communication. Because I think that what has happened is we've created very disparate groups that don't trust each other because they don't understand each other. And I think when you are trying really hard to build bridges, and you're trying really hard to have people who have built in traditional ways with traditional materials talk to groups of people who only know their traditional materials and their book type materials, it suddenly becomes an instance of clashing. And so I think that the Green Materials Tour, as I've called it, is now going from Mexico to Central and South America. I am incredibly lucky that these different teams are hosting me, because as part of the understanding, it's a brain exchange where I am not receiving any payment, nor am I paying anyone. It is done out of the goodness of everybody's enthusiasm to learn. So it's completely an opportunity if you are in the bioconstruction space, if you make those materials, if you feel like you haven't had a seat at the table, please invite me to come and work with you, because that's my whole point, is to learn and to share.
And that's another, that brings me to another point of the reciprocity. You're doing an intellectual exchange, going into these projects with the local craftsmen and working with local teams and learning more about local materials. So beautiful, beautiful. I'm excited to see and continue to follow the tour and see how it goes. And so going into regeneration also as far as embodiment and your choices. I mean, and I personally, I know you have known for some time now, so I know how I feel. But I'd like for you to tell me, and how do you feel that you are embodying regeneration from the sense of not just in your work, but in your daily life? Like, how do you, in the choices that you're making, in that meaning of, catalyzing life or leaving things better that you find it in your own daily life, how do you express it aside from everything that you just mentioned from work?
I think, again, it comes back to this idea of trust, trust the process, trust your intuition, being a little bit more open to making mistakes. Mistakes are okay. There are places where you're going to learn from that. And if you're not open to it, the regenerative process is one where you're constantly sort of being nimble and learning, but being respectful at the same time. I think that there's a fatigue that can set in really easily in a lot of our industries and in this space because we're battling a giant. It sometimes feels really overwhelming. So for my own regenerative, methodologies, it's to be like, what? I don't have to solve every problem today. And it's okay if I mess up. It's like, what can I learn from that? What part of that is going to make me better having had, this experience? And sort of just having some levity to what is otherwise sometimes a really dark and overbearing kind of space. But, I can't believe how much fun it's been working and calling up different manufacturers or vendors or people. I'm literally making cold calls sometimes to these producers, and they are welcoming me with open arms. That is such a lesson to be learned, So being regenerative, being inventive and celebrating everything, good, the bad, and coming back to your own space and realizing that that's where you're supposed to be.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And so going back into maybe the built environment a little bit here. So you're a built environment expert and materials expert, and you're an auditor for International Living Future Institute, which is, I would say, the highest level, from my level of understanding, the highest level of green building certification that you can go. You have the Living Building Challenge, where everything is, you're aiming for net positive equity. There you have the 7 petals. How are you seeing the industry, the built environment industry, affected by the trend, the regeneration wave that's currently happening? What's your opinion on that regard?
I mean, I think that if you ask any of those certification teams, they will be the first to say that they have been pushing the, regenerative definition for quite some time. I think what is changing is that is now becoming more widespread for people who are maybe not in those circles. And that's really encouraging. I feel like, the hardest work is sometimes reaching the people who would never come to this conference. The people that we need to be talking to and the people that really need to hear a lot of these messages are the people who are never going to come to an eco conference. They're not the ones who are going to be in the audiences today. And so I get really excited when I start to see that there is a sense of urgency in some of these groups that formerly we've had trouble reaching. And I do think that is because of policies. I can only speak a little bit more to North American policies, but I think that there's, for good and for bad, I think that there is some organization and municipality efforts, grassroots efforts that's now bleeding upwards. So I see a trend in hopefully what I call maybe people who have not been as engaged starting to become engaged, maybe for a variety of different reasons, but the fact that they're getting engaged is enough.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, and I can also relate to that, just being in the space that I've been in for the couple of years and in the built environment, definitely seeing a lot more interest from, different, just different areas, and you can experience it here. And that's also important because part of the point of Regen Week is to be able to bridge that gap with, maybe people that are not so much in the space, and we want to educate people and include them and welcome them into the space so that they can understand, what regeneration is about and how we can catalyze life, through this, and just really going back to ourselves, like you said, going back to connecting with ourselves and connecting with nature. What kind of trends are you seeing as far as work so you're telling me that there's more of an opening right now to collaboration, all that. Are there any specific trends that you're seeing in the work in that direction, or what are you seeing as a vision for the future in this space?
I get my experiences are going to be a little bit on the narrow side, so I can answer specifically from what I'm seeing in my network. There's definitely an uptick of people who are signing up for certifications. So specifically, we're seeing more people who are actually at least trying to progress with the certifications or the tenets of those certifications. I'm excited that there have been more product manufacturers who are enlisting in the different certification programs for their products as well. That I find really encouraging. As far as outside of that, I think, the carbon conversation has spurred a lot of interest. I think that we should use that with caution, and I think we should use that as a lever. I think that there is still a long way to go for us to really, truly understand what carbon and the measurement of carbon means. And I would really encourage people who have been in the space for a while to rally around that, make sure that it doesn't get derailed, make sure that it is a true accountability, because that is something that we have both qualitative and quantitative metrics. And when you have something like that, you can tie that to economies. And when you have something that's a through line that is a financial through line, we all know that that is a very big motivator. So I'd really like to see more movement in that space to support correct carbon calculation and accountability.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And as far as I'm curious also, and we were invited here to come to the interview, and I know that you were not seeing yourself so much in the space of regeneration, but me, that I personally have known you for a while, and I know the work that you've done. When did you hear the first time? Like, when was the first time that you maybe heard the term, and maybe not so much in the space of basically like in the built environment, but just in general?
I think I've heard the term when they were trying to come up with a more accurate term from sustainability. You watch the different sort of phases that we've gone through to try to put a name on something. We really like putting names on things and compartmentalizing them so we understand them. It's a very human-centric trait. But to give credit where credit is due, regenerative design is something that I honestly heard through the Living Future Institute. Okay. I really have to give hats off to the people who created that program. There are many great certifications and programs throughout the world, and teams and groups that are working on great things. But I appreciated so much the context of that, because thinking about buildings as living, breathing, regenerative entities. They're not separate from nature. They're not separate from ourselves. And then going beyond that, it's not just a building. It's a group of people. It's your colleagues. It's your family. Regenerative is an all-encompassing definition that, as I said, when you first asked the very first question, I'm still learning, because I think that, to have the hubris to say that I know what that means would show my inequity in itself.
And we are all still in that process. I personally, made a decision, and said, okay, well, this is what's my commitment level? And it's like, you're in it for life. This is something that you want to embody throughout your life. It's a lifetime journey, and it is a journey in co-evolution with life and with the places and with the communities that you're engaging with. So that's very much on point. And is there anything else final that you'd like to add? We're very grateful and honored to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation, and very happy to have you, and excited to hear you in the panel in the regenerative real estate investment forum that we have that's coming up. We're going to have you as a panelist speaking on bioconstruction and regenerative building materials and all that. So excited to also see you there. That's next Saturday. So we'll be having that.
I'm excited to be there. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So hello, Barbara. Welcome.
Hi, thank
So
you for having me.
So happy to see you. So excited to see you. And thank you for being here. So I'd like to start by just introducing yourself to the public, telling us a little bit about who you are, Barbara Lima, and about your project. And if you can expand a little bit more about that.
Sure. I'm Barbara Lima, founder of The Weave magazine, the Loom studio. We founded The Weave back in 2022. The Weave is a magazine about human and planetary regeneration. And so we are documenting the Regenaissance, this beautiful period that we're transitioning through right now, the regenerative renaissance. And our goal is to amplify the visionary voices of the movement.
Beautiful, amazing, incredible, and absolutely necessary, so that we can connect with the rest of the world about what this whole world of regeneration is about. And so, going into regeneration, and in this space, what does regeneration mean to you specifically?
I was talking about this the other day, and I remembered my first lesson on regeneration was offered to me by my dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a kid, and he told me, always leave places better than you found them.
Amazing.
And I love this definition, if we want to call it a definition of regeneration, because it's very simple, very grounded, very easy to understand. And so for me, regeneration has to do with leaving places, people, situations, relationships, environments better than we found them. Mm-hmm. When I look at it from a more technical perspective, I like to make a comparison between degeneration, sustainability, and regeneration. Mm-hmm. For me, if I were to use a mathematical framework to explain these three different concepts, degeneration would be -1. So it's the extractive relationship with ourselves, other people, and the environment. Sustainability would be represented by the number 0. We are entering a space in which there's a neutral energy that we want to sustain. And regeneration would be +1, which is actually this movement of replenishing, restoring, and bringing back to wholeness ourselves, our community, our relationships, and our surroundings. And so I feel like I don't think that sustainability is it's no longer enough. I see it as an outcome of regeneration, but moving from the perspective of sustainability is something that we can no longer afford. And so regeneration is definitely our next step forward.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I know that I personally, because we have that relationship, we enjoy each other, I know how you embody it in your work, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you feel that you're embodying that in the work that you're doing, and even beyond that, I mean, just in life in general, but as it relates to your projects and into your work, how are you bringing those values into this?
Yeah, I feel like that journey started for me with my own individual journey, my journey of healing myself and honoring the traumatic experiences I had in my life and how they were catalysts for me to transition from darkness to light, which is also a representation of regeneration for me. I feel like the phoenix is a beautiful representation of regeneration, and so I have experienced a lot of that in my life, and I feel like these experiences in darkness were equivalent to a seed in the soil. And learning how to sit with darkness and understand its properties and understand why it's here for me, why something is happening for me, not to me, that was a very important ingredient for me to understand the alchemy of regeneration. And so from an individual perspective, I have been exploring that for, I don't know, I remember starting my intentional healing journey when I was 15.
Wow, early age.
Yes. I lost my mom when I was 13, and that was my first invitation into regeneration, self-regeneration, as I call it.
And such an important part of it.
Yes, absolutely. I see regeneration as a movement that is concentric and it starts on the level of the individual. I believe that human regeneration, as I call it, is a prerequisite for planetary regeneration. We cannot regenerate anything external to us if we're not regenerating ourselves. We can talk about systems of regeneration, technical solutions, but if we are not applying these concepts to ourselves as individuals, we're not going to have what I call a regenerative presence. Our presence in the lives of the people that surround us will be toxic, or we're not going to be able to co-create, or we're not going to be able to live in community. And whatever we touch is not going to have this regenerative property that we talk about. And so for me, these two premises have been the foundation for my work. Number one, the regenerative movement starts on the level of the individual. And that brings me to the second premise, which is that human regeneration is a prerequisite for planetary regeneration. And so that's why with the Weave magazine, we look at regeneration from a holistic perspective, really exploring this concentric movement from the individual expanding to the community, to the planet, and to the cosmos as well, where we see the culture that emerges from this interdependence between these three first ecosystems, as we call them, is then creating new mythologies.
And I absolutely love that you mentioned that and that you bring that to the table because like my background coming from the Regenesis Institute and the work that I've done, Regenesis states you cannot transform the world unless you transform yourself first. And I've experienced it in my own journey, and it's incredible to once you understand what is really happening and once you become aware of certain situations and how you're showing up. One of the first premises is how am I showing up in this work to see to what the purpose is of what I'm doing, and a lot of that has to do with who you are as an individual, who you are as a human being, what traumas you have gone through that may be affecting your life. So thank you so much for bringing that up. It's absolutely essential. And going into a little bit further about the trends that you're seeing, what are you seeing into the future of regeneration? Where do you see this going? I mean, you yourself are a visionary in the work as well, and what you're doing with the Loom, and you're really expanding the voices of visionaries. What is the vision that you see and that you're experiencing others seeing as well?
Before I answer your question, I just want to talk a little bit more about the Loom. My co-founder Connor Sales is here. We started the studio last year in January, and what we're doing is that we are supporting purpose-driven entrepreneurs and organizations in the regenerative space in sculpting their message through what we call regenerative communication, which is another field that we've been exploring with our work. Where I see this going, the world I dream of and I envision is a world in which consciousness is a self-regulating law. And so beautiful. I see that all of these steps towards regeneration are scaffolds towards a community-type society in which the regenerative approach to the way we live towards ourselves, the people we surround ourselves with, and the environments in which we exist is a practice that is embedded in our culture as part of the new programming, if I were to use a word, that we share with our children. And so I feel like there's a great opportunity with the Regenaissance for us to shift culturally and start reprogramming the way we exist in the world. So for me, it's all about how we show up for ourselves, for one another, and for the places in which we exist, and developing this regenerative presence that will take us towards a world in which truth, authenticity, vulnerability, interdependence are the very values that we explore and we practice naturally, really. And that the way we exist and live is an expression of nature herself, that we see ourselves as nature, and as such we operate in honor of her, and as a result in honor of ourselves. And so this is where I see this movement taking us.
Beautiful. So, and such important values to embody, right? Such important values that sometimes may be difficult, with all of the, I would say, societally imposed ways that you're supposed to show up in the world. It kind of goes against. So, and I love also that you said reprogramming. When we say in the space, we say unlearning. So we're now at the same, I'm learning, but at the same time, I'm unlearning as well.
Yes.
So it's, you're reprogramming yourself and you're unlearning all of these things that you maybe were not the right way to show up in a regenerative manner. So thank you for sharing that. And so going into a little bit more about, the loom, and specifically, we'd love to learn and know a little bit more about how we can support you, how we can help you, what are your needs as well. So tell a little bit more about that and where, what the vision is, where it's going, and where we can be of help as Regen Week here and what we're doing in the space.
Thank you so much for asking. The work we've been doing with the loom is a work that is both within the regenerative movement, as I mentioned, but also we want to serve as a bridge for organizations who are seeking their place in the regenerative movement. Maybe they're not very sure about what regenerative culture is or how to implement regenerative systems in their organization. It can be, in terms of governance, for example, or the work that we do more specifically, messaging, how to communicate what is being done in a way that is really in line with principles of regeneration. We're here to support these organizations in better understanding what regeneration means and how that can be communicated in a way that is both serving the audience who is entering the space and learning about regeneration, but also we're also speaking to the audience that is already in the movement and understands the terms that we use and the concepts and the practices, most of all, because I feel like there's no value in talking about something that we're not embodying. And so for me, that's another important discussion, the embodiment of culture as opposed to declaring a culture. I feel it's important. Part of our work is the communication of the culture of an individual or an organization, but we're also here to support understanding how we can embody the culture that we communicate as part of the work that we do in our organizations. So yes, we welcome individuals and organizations who are purpose-driven to come chat with us about messaging in a way that is supporting a regenerative communication for the embodiment of a regenerative culture. And in terms of the Weave magazine, this year we're focused on fundraising and bringing to life our publishing house. We want to expand our scope of publication and really better serve as a watershed for the regenerative culture that is emerging with the movement. And so we're very interested in hearing from visionaries who want their work to be published and they potentially want to work in partnership with us, and also sponsors who are interested in supporting the work that is being done with the Weave magazine. We welcome everyone to come chat with us and see where the alignment is, because that's what's important to us, to really work with people and organizations who are in alignment with these values of regeneration.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I recall, I think in a conversation not too long ago, you mentioned the Weave having soon going to be focusing on a Latin American version, or is it just directing more towards Latin American project? Maybe can you tell us a little bit more about where that's at or what the plans are? It's super interesting. We're here in Mexico, right? And we have there's such incredible projects around Latin America that we'd love to learn more about that initiative.
Yeah, so that would be the theme of our next edition, the 4th edition of the Weave. We want to take a picture of the regenerative movement in Latin America, but from a bioregional perspective.
Beautiful.
So just to clarify, for those who may not be familiar with the concept of bioregions, imagine if the world was divided by ecological boundaries instead of political boundaries. And so this is what we want to bring as part of this 4th edition. And we want to look at the regenerative movement happening in this part of the world, as I said, from a holistic perspective. So we're definitely interested in learning more about what's happening in South America, in Central America, in Mexico specifically, as part of the efforts for this edition. And we're planning on releasing it in the winter solstice this year.
Wonderful, wonderful, amazing, beautiful. Excited to learn more about that and also collaborate and share a little bit more about the Latin American initiatives that we might be involved with as well.
Yeah.
And so the Loom magazine, Barbara Lima, and anything else that you'd like to add? How can we reach you? How can we learn a little bit more about your project? Can you share that with the audience, please?
Absolutely. Our website is theweavemagazine.earth. We invite you to subscribe to our newsletter. And you're also going to see a section of the website that's dedicated to the Loom Studio. Reach out, come have a conversation, and see how we can collaborate.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you have any last minute things that you'd like to share?
I would just say thank you for this conversation.
Such an honor.
I love your work.
I love your work. So we're working on that collaboration soon, I think. So excited, and so happy to have you here. Honored and humbled, and I absolutely love I fell in love with the first edition of the Weave. I can't wait until the next one comes out and so see how things progress through the coming years. It's a lifetime journey, right?
It is.
So we're all in it together, like I said.
Thank you so much, Francis.
Thanks to you. Wonderful. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Francis.
Wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I'm going to start by asking you to introduce yourself fully and then tell us the name of your project and a little bit more about it as well.
I wouldn't call it a project per se.
Okay.
I would call it a journey that I've been on.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that.
A journey that now I'm sharing with others.
Amazing.
So my name is Michelle Manjares, and many years ago, 21 years ago, I had a really intense spiritual awakening that then has been the initiator of my journey. And what I do, or what I'm taking a stand for, what I'm offering, is big healing work that has not been offered really in modern culture as much. Okay. It's now kind of a thing. So trauma-informed healing, very deep somatic healing. But I've been doing this for many, many years. And I'm also devoted to sacred plant medicine. She has been a great teacher of mine. And I'm able to offer those spaces with sacred plant medicine, with somatic work, with trauma healing, energy healing, because I am an energy channel also. So yeah, it's more of a journey than a project. And I'm just finding the learning has been continuous. What is really the community needing as far as transformation and evolution and increasing the consciousness in the field, right?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thanks.
And that's, I think that's, the common thread here. I believe a lot of us also feel that, it's a journey, and it's really this, I would say, we're in Regen Week, so it is this regenerative journey, but at the same time, it's like a lot of us, it's not so much a project, but it's, at least for me, for sure, it's a lifetime journey in the work. So discussing the subject, so we're here for Regen Week, and so we want to learn more about, what's your opinion, what's regeneration for you? What does the term regeneration bring up for you? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I do like the term. I think the term is quite nonlinear. It's quite ambiguous, and I like that about the term. And so I appreciate the question. For me, regeneration is a remembering. So as we're able to, right, it's a remembering of our true essence of who we are, and not in this, I want to say, puppies and clouds and marshmallow type thing, the opposite of that. Like really, really going into the deep, deep inner work, going into the deep layers, or in this case, if we are a river of flow, of energetic flow through our energetic centers, what are these stones, what are these logs, what are these thorns that are interfering with our energy flow? And so to be able to get rid of those, or take the time, take the awareness, and really work on that. For me, it's the most important work that we have, is our inner work. And then we remember who we are. So a renewal in remembering, something like that.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. And it's definitely absolutely essential to the regeneration itself. And it's, again, we cannot show up in a regenerative manner if we're not regenerated ourselves first. So it's absolutely essential to the work. And so I'd like to expressing that within in your work and in your healing methodologies for plant medicine. Maybe you can share a little bit more about how you. I mean, I think the expression of your work in itself is just regeneration. But how do you feel, and maybe different practices within your work that you're doing that is expressing regeneration within it?
So the way that I combine, and I'll share about this particular line of work.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the way that I combine it, because we have been in modern culture such mind machines, I do want to be able to address the mind first.
Okay.
So as I address the mind, I do it through thought maps, or I do it through distinctions, I do it through cohesion and connective type of authentic, or like authentic relating work type things, right? But really tapping into the mind first, because if it's logical to the mind, because that's been our pattern and our paradigm is that only mind matters, only intelligence matters, only like that, that's my value. So if it makes sense to the mind, then people are more open to receiving the liquid state, or the, I want to say, the healing in this authentic, vulnerable, oh my gosh, like these realizations, because now the mind relaxes, and now the mind is kind of, can take a break, because the mind's been in it all the time, right? And so then, let's say the example of the medicine work. So then we can, or I offer the medicine, in this case it's sacred mushrooms, traditional style, so that we also remember the rituals, or the ancestral rituals that are super important and have been
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's also essential.
So more of rituals and ceremony and the music, and really increasing the vibration in a very safe love space. So really the energy of it is love, because that's who we are in essence, is love. And in that safe space, the being, with the help of the medicine, then they can be in their full expression of whatever pain, trauma, whatever wounds, whatever incompletenesses they have had, so that they can then initiate into adult consciousness. Because if they have that child trauma or the other things, right, then they cannot really unfold into an adult consciousness, which is what we are needing.
Exactly.
Right. And then massive integration. Like, I didn't want to miss that part. So after the ceremony, I will hold an integration space that will take as long as it takes. There's no clock to it. So it can be as long as it takes. And then we continue to build community through that, because community gets built. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I think a lot of us don't realize, unless we become aware and conscious, and you have the whole world out there that unfortunately not everyone is aware that we're kind of walking through life with these traumas and showing up. And it's so essential to the work to be able to understand, why are you showing up in a certain way? And you may, it's difficult to figure out where those traumas are coming from. And, a lot of times from your subconscious, I mean, you're not aware of them. So your work is absolutely essential for us to be able to show up in a regenerative manner. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
Thank you for understanding it.
It's my pleasure and honor. And so going in a little bit into the term regeneration itself, I mean, when did you hear it for the first time, or when was it using that specific term? Because I think, again, maybe the work that some people are doing, like your own, it embodies regeneration. It's an essential part of it. But the actual term, when was the first time that you heard it and sort of engaged with it, maybe connected it with your work and decided that there was a connection with it? And how do you see that, going into the future in the space with your work in regeneration?
Yeah, great question. So I heard about soil regeneration first. And then I came to realize and make the connection of nature is wise beyond belief. Nature has its own healing modalities, its own diversity. If we don't have different beings in nature, then how can we have any healing happening, right? And it's not a homogeneous environment that we see and we perceive in nature. And it's the same with soil regeneration. And I went and I did a deep dive in soil regeneration. I went to conferences regarding soil regeneration, and I realized, wow, this is exactly what the healing world is needing, to open up to all the possibilities of no judgment. We're all so diverse, and we're all needing each other in our differences and our distinctions, so we can co-create, collaborate, and have our distinct roles as opposed to the hierarchical, I'm in power. It's like, I'm good and competent at this role. I'd love to have this role. Is that okay? And let me then build you up in your role, whatever your role is, like that, in the way that nature does.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the way that I see it, I think you also asked, the way I see it in the future or in my work, it has to, with community work also, because I do cherish and take a stand for regenerative community work in the real essence of non-hierarchical, but also this honoring of roles in the way that Indigenous did, and not romanticizing what was, but building and creating something brand new, where we can take from those wisdom pieces of Indigenous communities, traditional communities, and also what is needed here and in the now. So honoring and respecting and building ourselves up through authenticity, vulnerability, love, connection, radiance, and really just sharing our gifts fully. Freedom. Really.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned community and, working with communities in the space. I mean, are you currently in your work engaging specifically with maybe some people that are working in some land-based regenerative community projects that you might be coming in and, being of service to the actual project and to the people that are engaged in it? I think it's so important because one of the aspects of regeneration is, stakeholder engagement.
Yeah.
And how you're showing up, with the community and how you're showing up with, the outside community and the proximate whole and the greater whole, and being able to create that connection, that vulnerability, that authenticity within the community itself, with you coming in as a facilitator. Is that something that you're working on? I'm curious to know, just as far as maybe potential projects.
This has been a big thing for me. I attended and I visited Zeg community in Germany.
Okay.
And they've been around since the late 60s or 70s, I believe. Finhorn community in Scotland.
Okay.
So first I wanted to really get my own feet wet, get all of my information of what is going on in these communities that have gone through the test of time.
Okay.
And then I opened a space for community, right? So how can we do conflict resolution? How can we focus on the individual within the community that has a wound or a trauma that can then impact maybe the rest of the community? So how can we really do it individually? Because it's not a community pain. There's a collective, there's a community, there's a group, but there's an individual pain as well. So I've been making those offerings. I just spent a month and a half in Costa Rica. I attended Envision Festival and presented there as well, in a panel with Indigenous people as well. And what I have found is that there is this longing of mine to hold most spaces, and I have. But what I find is that communities, regenerative communities, haven't really, they get it, they understand that this is super important. However, it takes the back end of their codex, of their guidelines or their books and their budget, right? and this is how it goes. So unfortunately, there's still this resistance to really go all in with the weekly circles and the weekly events and fun and engaging and looking at the difficult conversations and doing the healing. There's still this a little bit of resistance. So yes, I have and do work with communities more of as a consultant type basis. My longing is to be part of the team, all in is what it is. But then I find that people resist it. But we don't have money because we have the construction, or we don't have, or we do this, or we do that, right? So kind of the resource thing.
Understand.
It's a non-material value that people are still not valuing as much as it is critically important.
And
that's pretty sad.
No, I can completely resonate that, and I understand that, and I'm engaging in sustainable regenerative development projects myself, and I think sometimes, especially when we're working with outside people they might be trying to become a regenerative project, but don't quite understand the importance of the depth of the work in certain aspects of it. So I do relate to you in the sense of sometimes that monetary value is not given to the work that you're bringing in. But I do believe that there's also sort of a reemergence, and what we're doing here also at Regen Week is, educating in that regard and allowing people to understand, how much deeper it's essential. It's, I like to say that life is really not that simple. We know it's a complex. We're looking at whole systems of thinking when you're thinking regeneration. So we have to think about all of these things and go deeper into the work. Is there any projects specifically that you are maybe excited about into the future in this regeneration space that might have become aware of? I mean, you just said that you might want to work specifically and become a team of a project. Have you thought of like where or maybe people that you'd like to work? Just out of curiosity in that regard.
I did spend time in Costa Rica, like I said, and I do really, I want to say, honor and feel like people that are really in the regenerative soil type of spaces get it at another level. So being in a community or being able to contribute with projects of people that are in there, in that space, and I did spend some time there, and I know I will spend more time there as well. That excites me. And here at Regen Week, looking for, or actually being open to whoever really is interested in the work. So I feel that all the different layers of regeneration within a community, they all matter, right? But not leaving that aside. Yeah, I'm super excited about all that. And I'm really excited about continuing my own work.
How can we support your work? What are your specific needs? I mean, you're here. Thank you so much for all of the shares that you've that you've done and for explaining a little bit deeper into the work. How can we support you?
Thank you. I would like support with being responsible for the delicate nature that it is to work with big trauma, that it is to work with sacred medicine.
I love that.
I would love support with people really understanding that you don't take a 1 year or a 1 week shaman course and then you facilitate bufo as a medicine. I have a devotion to plant medicine because it came to me from beyond, right? And I'm not saying that I'm special. I think many Westerners have had a calling, and it's not it's a journey, and it's a very delicate and responsible journey. Many of the spaces that I hold for trauma from people that have had journeys that have not been good for them, that have been the opposite of that, and power over and hierarchy. And anyhow, so no harm, right? But beyond the no harm would be responsibility. I see myself now as a teacher of sorts that can hold a space for apprentices and apprenticeships, and I've been doing that also, so that it is the work requires responsibility that is radical. The trauma work requires big adult responsibility, and to think that you can just do it in a week or in a month or because it's a fad. It's not only impacting the beings that are there in the space, it impacts the space holder, the facilitator, because then there's a shadow principle of I know and arrogance and competency that's not there. That's a shadow of competency. You're not competent yet. Take a little bit of time maybe, right? Yeah. And it impacts the medicine.
Of course.
It impacts the medicine, and medicine is sacred. So I would like to have some help with that kind of understanding and wisdom so that we can navigate these spaces in a more responsible and beautiful and healing way for all of us, really.
I absolutely love that you're saying that. I think that is something that is happening, and it happens a lot in the regeneration space as well. You're navigating a space it's deep work, and we need more responsibility in people to understand. Again, with your work, which is part of regeneration, and with the work that we're doing in the regeneration space, really, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with the term. It's not just a marketing term. It's not just a buzzword. It's not that happens very much in the healing methodologies that are out there. So there's a lot of alignment in the situations that are going on in the world as far as the direction that it's going for mainstream and what it actually entails and the depth of the commitment level that's there. And they're both, it's part of each other, they're ingrained completely, and then also lifetime journeys. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to tell, again, reintroduce your project and where we can find you, your website, so that the audience knows where to look for you and engage with you for community and for the work that you have been working.
Thank you. Thank you. So I've been a little different. I hardly use Instagram. I don't use Facebook. My website is kind of in the works. I really am more referral and one-on-one and WhatsApp, and I will share what I have. So lifetriberetreats.com is my website. Michi Connect, M-I-C-H-I Connect is my Instagram, and you'll see I don't have a lot there. And I feel really glad about it because, again, it's not a marketing thing. It's a word of mouth and it's a healing journey, and people will resonate with this work like that. Anyway, I don't have those distractions per se.
Okay. The word of mouth is the best. So,
Yeah.
do you have any last words you'd like to share with the audience?
Thank you, everyone, for being interested, and thank you guys for being interested in the regeneration movement, in healing, transformation, evolution. It doesn't take that many of us, but it takes that many of us to be solid for all of the rest of us. Let's be solid.
Beautiful.
Okay? And ask for help. We don't do this work alone.
And I love, again, radical collaboration and radical responsibility. That you said, the radical responsibility. I absolutely love that you said that. Thank you, because it is extremely important that we take this into consideration in the spaces that we are all journeying in.
Great. Thank you, Francis.
Wonderful.
And if someone wants my WhatsApp, I don't know how to do that, but you guys can help that later. Thank you.
Wonderful
Bye.
to meet you, and thank you so much. Super appreciate
Thanks,
meeting you, and
Francis.
thank you for the work that you're doing.
Cheers. Thank you.
So, Marguerite and Oceana, thank you for being here. Welcome to Regen Week and our live stream here at Regen Week. I'd like for you to start a little bit by introducing yourselves, just your name and your last name, and a little bit about your project to us, please.
Thank you. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm Oceana, and you want to introduce yourself?
Margherita.
This is Margarita, and I'm Canadian American, and Margarita's Italian.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And we're co-creating with some other people a villa called Co-Living Villa in Macerata, which is in between Venice and Prosecco Hills in northern Italy.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey because we purchased the land. Margarita acquired the land 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we've been working to build this community from this existing villa that's there.
Amazing, amazing.
Yes.
And
This villa was built in the 50s. And so
Beautiful.
we are going through an amazing and big project to do the remodeling the house and thinking to give a new birth to this building, and not only from the architecture point of view, but especially to build this kind of community. And Kim was with Kim we had this idea.
I'm also Kim.
okay.
And Oceania, because I met her before, because we are best friends. And so
Beautiful.
we really wanted to create this something for us and for the people we love. And at the beginning could be for a small group of people, but after we understood that the beauty could be to share with other people. And so that's why we started this idea at the beginning by chance, and after we instead realized that this was what we really wanted to do.
But how it really started? It really started because we wanted to be together and live together. For reasons we weren't able to live in the same city. And so Margarita was looking for a connection. And so we decided to create it. You can't, so just bring it and the people will come. So that the idea is that dividere insieme, to be together and to share together. So that's the idea, that you come to the co-living villa and you're part of the family, and that's part of the Italian culture. We want to bring people from other cultures and other places to come and experience this, and so they feel like part of the family and can share and they can contribute. There's co-working spaces. There's living spaces that are for short-term, long-term, and also for people to stay. And we can create, people can have the retreats or events there. It really is a regenerative model that we're using too. So, and it's, right now we're really developing it. We're going to be kind of like starting in 1 month.
Wow, that's quick. So wonderful. You just brought in the word regenerative. So let's go into that a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more about what regeneration means to you. I'd like to learn a little more about, when you're saying we're bringing in regenerative into the project. Can you share a little bit more about what does regeneration mean to you? What does regeneration mean to you, please?
Okay, I like the language, right? Okay, so for this project, the idea is as much as the people and the land. So it's, of course, we love the architecture. She's a developer and I'm a designer.
Amazing.
But together, It's really about the land and the people and bringing it together, and it's the biophilia of our times, really. So that's what we are looking at: the land and the home, and our community model. You have to look at everything together.
In a holistic perspective.
Yes.
And for you,
yeah,
as a
of course.
developer, that's incredible. I'm working on my own regenerative development journey with land-based projects, so I'm excited to learn more as to your vision as a developer for this.
I have to say that at the beginning we didn't think that we could afford this kind of huge project, because at least, at the end we are speaking about 4 acres of land. It's not a small garden. So of course we really need to ask more to ourselves what really we would like to do. And also because the beauty of this situation is that the land was never be cultivated. So for 50 years the land is over there as a garden. So it's quite unusual because we live near the city, and so this opportunity, of course, give us the how can I say, we had to ask ourselves. Now we are in this situation, and we can do we behave like normal people. Say in this situation, because as a developer, of course, I can think about apartments or different kind of pool and gardens, but this is a completely different concept.
100%.
And so that's why we are trying to find a way to be really. We don't want to be different. We would like that this could be our normal way of living. We don't want to be different. This is what we live. That means how we would like to live on our own terms. If I have to define so, and the land and the people all together, growing together. And if we have no experience, I'm speaking about myself. I would like to be more. I want to be closer to the earth. So this is a huge opportunity, to learn and to bring people that can teach.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And that sounds amazing. And then, so in the regeneration space, when was the first time that you heard maybe the term regeneration or started engaging with the term regeneration, and then maybe thought about we want this co-living villa to be a regenerative project, and I'd like to maybe learn a little bit more about that.
I have to say thank you to Oceania because she was the one that really dragged me in this world, and so that's why I'm here. Two weeks ago we supposed to be in our office, and now we are here because
beautiful.
We understood this was the right timing, and she was the one.
So you connected, and she had the land, and you envisioned a regenerative development co-living villa project, and she was not. But you came into the space, and you were aware of regeneration and maybe that field, if you will. When and how were you? How has it inspired you in the project and in the work that you're doing?
I think what Margarita is saying is that when we first met, which was in 2016, is when we met in California. And so she had the idea of living in a community from the human experience. And then I basically came in with what it's like from the built environment, what it's like to have a regenerative community. And so we've been basically, we talk on the phone like almost every day, or we WhatsApp each other almost every day, and have developed this together. So she's as knowledgeable as I am at this point, so. Yeah.
Wonderful. And so now, but as far as the actual term itself, like regenerative, and then there's different ways that you can address the term regeneration. Actually, it's pretty much in everything when you're talking regeneration, specifically. When were you introduced to that? And maybe you just mentioned the built environment. Was there a particular moment that you said, okay, I want this to be a regenerative project, as it relates to the built environment, and then in the sense of the construction, and then as it relates to the community part and the human aspect of it, which is actually essential to the work, because the human component of it comes first.
Right. I have my business as I've developed my business too to be, it's guy inspired, and it's about regenerative design. But I mean, I've been doing sustainable design.
Okay, so
I've been
it's-
doing it, my whole career, striving to do it. So, but sustainability, being sustainable was not enough, right? So then regenerative is like the continuation, and it's like like the you heard of like circular design, and so it's just been part of us, and we both had a very deep need to live in a different way, and to help people learn how to give them this experience of how can you live in a different way. And so that's just been almost like a deep need for us. So that's why we're co-creating it together.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love the
And,
passion and
Yeah.
beautiful.
And also, when I moved to California was because I was thinking, okay, it's not possible in Europe, So in my mind, in Italy, I couldn't speak with nobody around this topic. So when I found I found Oceania, I said, okay, this is my place. I've been in California before, and it was really I had this kind of connection with the place. But basically, probably was because was the freedom that you can have in that place. But because of the COVID and after the COVID, and for many different reasons, I mean, these things happen, and I said, why we have to wait to move to California instead to create something interesting in Italy? Because not everyone has the possibility to go over there and to have this experience of freedom that I had, let's say. That was my experience. So I think that together we can bring, this vision that we have in common, but coming from different roots, different culture. So how can you say, American culture, Canadian, or different culture together? It's so I think so interesting. So why we have to go away from an amazing country where I live? So we just need to find people that can help us, to create different harmony in the place with different mindset, let's say, and thinking out of the box.
Beautiful,
And
Yeah, and we really would love to. As so many people in the regenerative movement, we would like to replicate. Of course, you can't really replicate in regeneration.
Thank you for
everything is
saying
different.
that. Thank you for saying that.
But we want to help create other spaces and be a part of creating other regenerative communities and the co-living. I don't know. There's people here that are here at Regen Week that we also really excited to meet because we're a part of like different groups and affiliated with different groups here. That so we can actually it's exciting because we can sit down and talk to them like in person and make those kind of connections. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so again, so we're discussing a little bit the term regeneration itself, and as far as in your day-to-day life and just your how you're showing up in the world today, what do you feel? How are you expressing that in your life and in your work? The term regeneration itself, you've expressed it. You mentioned the built environment. How do you feel that you're doing that already in your own life and, kind of embodying that, if you will, or maybe making some changes in some aspects?
in my daily life, we are, regarding my job, we're putting more effort to, instead of creating new buildings, to remodeling and to use.
Beautiful. I love that.
Because we live in a place where there are so many buildings that we have to save, and the villa is an example itself. Because will be, of course, it's difficult sometimes really to find a way to again give new birth to this place that was one villa, only one family was living there, and is about I don't know in square feet, but is a huge, something like 1,200 square meters.
Okay.
Around 10,000 square feet.
So
Yeah, about 10,000,
only one
10,000.
family, and so nobody wants to take this kind of huge villa because wealthy people prefer destroy and do something new.
Yes,
because it was
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because it will be more expensive. Of course,
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
to build a new one. And so instead the idea and instead the spirit of this house with huge dining room and huge living room could be only for one family. So I was looking for a small apartment, and the real estate agent showed me this huge villa because
wow.
I didn't find something for me. And I said, nothing is going to move here, so show me something. And
I love how you connected,
Yeah,
connected
and
with your
so-
feeling in the body.
And so the real estate agent showed me this villa, and they said, I was looking for a small apartment. What is this? And day after day, I said, okay, Kim, this is our time.
Amazing.
So we have to do it.
So that villa brought you together. That's
I mean,
in a sense. In
she
this
was in
this project of
California, yes, because,
co-creating that project.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, and I love that you expressed the what you're basically retrofitting. You're coming in and you're existing buildings. I personally come from the built environment myself, and so I think there's a lot of importance to be said about that. We have, there really should be no need to be destroying the land when we have so many buildings out there in the entire world that it's ideal to actually do what you're doing, and especially I imagine the architecture is probably incredible and it's masterpiece. So thank you also for seeing the value of that because you are bringing the property back to its essence, that you're breathing life back into what it used to be in the essence of that building, and that's a big that's an essential part of regeneration as well. So thank you for sharing that. And so as far as the trends, for example, that you're seeing in this space, like what are you in the regeneration space, and maybe talking a little bit about the community because you're focusing on co-living, right? And you're focusing on this shared experience.
Yeah.
What are the trends that you are seeing and that maybe you might want to bring into your project?
Well, one of the things is we'd like to share the food. We'd like to share the resources of that. If there's like a bakery or a restaurant near there, if we can grow food and we can share it that way. We also want people to come. That an important part of us too is that not everyone is able to afford to live in these regenerative communities. It's affordable, but for some people, they just don't have those kind of resources. So we want to create, there's sort of like a beautiful loft space upstairs that it's like shaped as, slanted, like part of the roof. And we want to be able to create a space there for people who wanted to volunteer or people that maybe they don't have the money to stay somewhere that they could stay. And so I really think that's one of the things that I guess I just wanted to express it, that what's really important. There's so many beautiful regenerative communities, but I think to make it really, really truly regenerative, that it has to be also diverse that way. And so we're really into diverse housing. So we would love to showcase some different kinds, with Italian 3D printing homes on the land, tiny homes, many different ways.
Beautiful. Thank you for mentioning that. Inclusivity. I mean, the inclusivity is absolutely essential also. People have the mentality that sometimes, it's more expensive and I can afford this, but you do have projects, and you going into that space and with your project of being inclusive of everyone is also a big part of the regenerative term, if you will, regenerative movement. And so going into just would like for you to share again the name of your project, and then is there any information out there that we can, if people want to reach out to you, how does the audience go about learning more about the co-living villa in Italy? I mean, this is an enticing project. We'd love to continue to connect with you and learn more as to how that journey is going, and what we can do also for you, what Regen we can do for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, it's called Co-Living Villa. And I guess you could reach Margarita at Sunflower Worlds.
Yeah.
Sunflowerworlds.com. And I'm GaiaInspire.com, Oceana. And we'll have a website soon. So we're working on that.
After this week, when we will have more consciousness about
what
and we would
just
love
sharing with you,
Wonderful.
Yeah, and people, we would love right now more help with permaculture experts.
Okay.
Would be nice, and anyone that wants to make a connection with us is really important to us.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your project with us, and thank you for coming into this regenerative movement and doing that and working that into your life. So, and we appreciate having you here. Thank you for the interview. Do you have any last words that you want to share?
Yes, I wanna I wanna be here with Oceana the next year.
Okay.
With not only with the website, but with something more.
Amazing,
So
amazing.
waiting for everyone to share the experience and to get new ideas about really, find other people.
Beautiful.
So-
We're excited to have you here next year and learning more and
Yes.
seeing how the project is evolving.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hello, Afred. Nice to see you again. Just we had a little conversation last night. So, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your project, the name of your project, to the audience. So, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good to see you again as well. My name is Alfred Team. I'm here representing Tierra del Sueños, or Dreamland, on Lago Atitlan. One of our, the leader of the initial principal person on the project, Alice Munez, was hoping to be here. His visa situation didn't work out, so just want to give a nod to Alice for all the work he's done over the last 2 years, helping to get this project started. We're close to Santiago Atitlan, across the bay, just a few minute walk from a fairly well-known place in Lago Atitlan, Mystical Yoga Farm.
Beautiful, amazing. That's still that is still on my bucket list. I haven't been yet, and I have to go. So thank you for sharing that. So you're here at Regen Week, and we're talking regeneration. What does regeneration mean to you?
In the context of this project, I think the first thing I'd like to say is just honoring everything that allows us to jump up and live. All the beings, all the different waters that flow through us, the sun and the moon, all these things. For us, hoping to have a place in our hearts and also in our spirits to realize that our daily actions, living the big story, are offerings to the entities or the spirits that we believe in our cultural purview. So to answer your question maybe more specifically, regeneration means rebuilding culture. We are essentially, in this generation, cultural bricklayers to lay down a foundation as a transition generation to have a place for people to call home again, to have people they love and share language and stories and food together. That's kind of the indigenous perspective that we're all trying to rediscover. My last happy ancestor was probably in the 900s, coming from Norway or Scandinavia, and they probably were the last ones in my lineage that had all those things. So it's been 1,000+ year journey for my people to get to this place.
So going back to your roots, essentially. Wonderful.
But more specifically for this project, learning from the roots that are already there. As you're probably aware, there's many different Maya cultures in Guatemala. The ones close to Santiago Atitlan are the Sutuhil Maya. And I've actually been trying to learn the language over the last 11 months. And,
wonderful.
It's a little bit of a challenge and tongue twisting for me, but it helps me to have a deeper understanding of the land. The area there they call Sitkinhai, which in their language is the house of the birds. And they consider them the bird people because there's a diversity of birds across the landscape there.
Incredible.
Yeah. So.
Well, then thank you for bringing you just kind of diving into that specifically, and as it relates to this project. How are you bringing regeneration into the project, into the work that you're doing with this project? You mentioned you mentioned something very specifically as it relates to this land, which is super important in regeneration. You're talking about people and place and the community that's surrounded, and regenerative projects are unique to the place, to that where they're being developed in. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing as it relates to this project and expressing that in the project and in your work?
I personally am the remote operations manager until I'm able to move down there full time.
Okay.
As I said, I'm standing. Ali should be here with his pirate swagger. A good introduction, but since he's not, the regenerative processes they've already been doing on the land. There's been some land purchased by a Canadian fellow, Ariel, and he's essentially donated half his land to create. There's areas where crops have already been created with stone walls and a whole beautiful landscape with some spirals and so forth with planted crops. And there's also a building that's been created from natural building materials as a school.
Oh, beautiful! I love that you're making it as a school. That's amazing, and again, super tied to the purpose here. So.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and they've already been teaching the local school children or sharing concepts. There's been programs that Alish has done with the local farmers to share the ancestral farming practices, because some of that has changed, as you might understand, with the massive agribusiness coming to different areas. But one of the real strengths or the real foci of the project would be to, over time and also currently, is having the Zutil Mayan have a place to share their ancestral practices. Those are things like making patates. A patate is a tule reed mat, and we've paid some of the local people to come and make those for the school. And then also eventually there will be a temple on the space that will be part of the time will be dedicated for the local Zutahil to practice their ancestral spiritual practices.
Amazing. So you are already doing pretty much everything on the basics of really bringing in the local culture and actually building their capabilities and building their capacities, and so that you can continue to breathe life into the local communities. Which is an essential component of regeneration. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm excited to actually learn more about the project now that I know this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And so when was the first time that you heard the term regeneration? Because it's I guess it's something that's right now kind of coming in, and a lot of people are experiencing that it's becoming a bit of a buzzword out there, but some people may or may not have been aware of it. When did regeneration come into your life?
I was on the founding board of directors of a group in Portland, Oregon called Tryon Life Community about 17, 18 years ago. And at that time, the buzzword was sustainable communities. And I think that's still used a lot. I'm trying to think when regenerative, I don't know exactly when it came in, but it's probably just like on the wind as things shift. And I think part of it for me is like, I view regeneration as just, as I've said before, kind of a more modern term for like our indigenous understanding.
I like
whether
that
it
you
was
say
my
that.
ancestors in Europe or your ancestors locally, or
I love that you say that, because essentially, regeneration is right now kind of becoming, in a sense, mainstream. But the reality of it is that it comes from indigenous wisdom. It's really always been there, but we hadn't really been embodying those values, and now we're kind of going back into the essence of who we used to be, and those roots, if you will. And as far as trends, for example, that you're seeing, and you're in the space and you're in the built environment and regenerative project space, what kind of trends are you seeing out there? What do you see in the future of this regenerative space and regenerative wave and regenerative culture that's happening? Maybe what are you seeing, and what's the vision that you would like to see potentially?
And this is my first major conference in a while in the
Okay.
regenerative sustainable community space, but I've been tracking some of the information. What I would like to see is kind of more of a crossover with more of the cultural development, and these are what I call cultural technologies. And one of the major ones is rites of passage. And I don't know how much that's being done on the regenerative communities yet, but I feel like that kind of like introducing the youth to death in a controlled way by the basis of the community, so that the rite of passage is not simply for the youth to like experience their transition, but even more so, it's to keep the community alive, so that the children and become adults and understand how to be useful for the community. That their daily activities, being a beautiful human being, is an offering to the entities that, in the Zutio perspective, the entities across the field sing humans to life. So the things that we do with beauty are food for the god, so to speak. So those type of cultural technologies. And the rites of passage don't just stop at that age. There's like multiple ones through your lifetime. That would be something I'd love to see
More of.
Yeah. And it's challenging. Like, how do we like come to shared spiritual ritual commonality as a group to come together to build an eco village, right? We may have all these common guidelines and agreements, but spirituality can also be a very much individual thing in the modern world. So how do we weave that together through stories and songs? food and clothing.
Like, coming and just building that community and really making that human connection.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as far as your day-to-day life, your own activities, how do you? I mean, one of the things that we have been discussing here in Regen Week, and amongst us that are here, is the aspect of embodiment, if you will, of regeneration, and the aspect of transformation also, and and how some of us in the space, have gone into this regenerative journey and really started with our own transformation. Do you feel that you have, experienced that, or like, and then how are maybe a little bit more about what your particular journey has been in this space?
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I really have to thank my mentor, Martine Prechtel, who lived with the Zutil Mayans back in the 70s and 80s before the most recent civil war. And there's a lot of effects from that, or part of the reason why we're doing this project. But he's somebody in particular who's helped to shape my worldview. I went to a school that he has in New Mexico, Bolad's Kitchen, which is based around indigenous riddles and food and language and songs and so forth. So, like, how do you create your own indigenous perspective? So that's been part of my journey. I've done a number of things over the years, vision quests that were supported, vision quests that were unsupported, and then also my own internal practices around Taoism. I'm also a Chinese medicine doctor, acupuncturist, so there's
amazing! I love that
learning that's happened through that. Yeah,
wonderful.
So it's I think for me, like it's an ongoing practice, right? I'm not at the level of Yogananda or Babaji,
but it is a lifetime path. It is a lifetime journey, really. You kind of get into this. You realize, this is how long are you in this for the long term? When you kind of wake up and you're like, well, I am now becoming aware of things that I wasn't aware of, and and it's a constant, process and evolution and co-evolution with your relationships and the people and the places that you are and all that.
Yeah, totally. It's like the John Malkovich moment. Got it, lost it, got it. And it's like
I love that. Yeah, and that is exactly that way. Yes, going back to the level of awareness and becoming, okay, well, not so much there. Is there what about? Tell me a little bit about. Any projects, for example, that you have seen or that you're seeing that inspire you in the space, and that so you're working on the project in Atitlan. Are there projects out there that you're seeing that inspires you that you may want to, what inspire in this just inspiration in general?
In the regenerative space.
Yeah. I mean, and even and it can be in the space that may not be, but may be related. Really, inspiration and ideally regenerative movement.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one down the road from, or a walk down the road from us there in Lago Atitlan, Mystical Yoga Farm. And it's a little bit of a different model. People come for workshops and they're there as kind of shorter term tenants or guests, participants. And I think, there's some balance between creating that kind of model that has sustainable income flows for the community. And then also, like, the other side of it is, like, how do you have the eco village where people are committed to, like, their lives there together, and they're sharing of food and sharing of cooking and sharing of responsibilities, sharing of resources. So that's one, the major one I know about on the lake. My friends that are still involved with Try and Life Community Farm, they have an interesting model that's worked as well, where there's, like, residents on the land that may not particularly engage in some of the projects of the farm, but they have a kind of financial agreement about how much rent they're going to pay and then how much work they will do for the upkeep. So there's a lot of different models out there, and that was an interesting one because we got the city of Portland to help fund the purchase of that land from the private landowner that had it at the time.
Oh wow! So you had a collaboration there from the city.
Yeah.
And it's a community ownership in the project.
Yeah. Now it's all community ownership.
Amazing.
The land's owned by the NGO or the nonprofit. But the residents are like a separate kind of like private group. It's kind of this complex structure that seemed to work for one reason or other.
Beautiful.
But I think in general, like for me, the indigenous cultures worldwide have a lot for us to learn from, to teach us. And not that we want to appropriate that in ways for monetization, and that's nothing we want to do on our project. We want to help support some of the people in the community in a major way. And we also have hired 6 to 8 local workers that work on the farm and help with the growing, the planting, and so forth. So committed to like sharing resources with the community as they come in and having them in as teachers as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, that's essential to regenerative development projects. She's again breathing in life into the communities, and having those shared experiences, if you will, and supporting them not just in the job, but actually, you mentioned earlier about teaching them as well as to these practices that may have been lost, and so just maintaining that indigenous wisdom is so important, and it's also essential to regenerative communities. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to share with us? How can we help you? How can we? Here, thank you for being here at Regen Week. How can we be of service to your project and to your cause, and anything that you'd like us to know and the audience to know?
Thank you for the question. We're in kind of the second phase, and at this point, there's one connecting piece of property that we're trying to purchase between the two existing properties, and that's kind of a big deal. It's about $220 to $260 American dollars to purchase it, and so we're in the phase of essentially raising money for that. I may end up being one of the investors, depending on what some of the. Okay. But we're still looking for like 3 to 4 other investors to be the cornerstone trees to hold up the world, so to speak, as the Zutu would say. So that's a major, because if we purchase this additional piece of land, it'll really give us the space to complete the temple and some of the other spaces that we want to create for the whole project.
Well, you need to join us on our regenerative real estate investment forum on Saturday, where it's a good space for you to actually engage with other people that are other potential investors for the project, and tell them a little bit about Tierra de los Sueños. Tierra de los Sueños, correct?
Sí.
Oh, thank you so much, Alfred, for being here. And again, can you share with us where we can learn more about maybe the project? Do you have a website, or where can the audience find you?
We're in the process of developing a website, but I can be emailed at ALThieme@comcast.net, or people can directly message me on WhatsApp at 1-503-481-0283. And I think that'll probably be in the chat or something, right? On your.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Regen Week. It's just the beginning, so we're excited to continuing to have you throughout the week, and we hope that you have a wonderful experience throughout.
Thank you.
It's great to learn more about your project. I'm excited to also look into it and learn more coming from I love everything that you shared regarding what you're doing with the indigenous wisdom and the land, and I'm coming from a land-based project background as well, so I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper and maybe connect as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Short version is long life, honey in the heart, 13 thank yous, no evil.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you. Infinite gratitude. Thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Oh.